Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we have a This Is Not a Top 10. This video is a little bit of a celebration for 9,000 subscribers because if you knew how long it took me to compile this list, and I am just surrounded by perfumes right now. The more my collection has grown, the perfectionist in me will not allow me to do a video and leave out a fragrance that has this note. Not if I can help it. Not if I know I can help it. And so I'm adding every single fragrance that I have a full bottle of, and we're even going to talk about some samples that I've done reviews on, and we're going to talk about some samples that I have in the collection waiting to do reviews on. We'll probably go pretty quick with the samples that we are waiting to discuss. Actually, I'm going to try and go pretty quick with a lot of these because there are a crap ton of fragrances to get through. So I hope you got your seatbelt on. So today, it is a This Is Not a Top 10 Cardamom edition. Unranked, okay? Just a old school Ramsey, vintage Ramsey type video where we just talk about a ton of fragrances that have the note of cardamom in my collection. And I was shocked. I never did a This Is Not a Top 10 Cardamom video. I won't lie. I had a subscriber reach out and say, hey, you're missing your cardamom video. You never did one. And I was like, no way. Had to have. I mean, I almost couldn't believe it myself. So this has been a 2.5 year basically in the making video, literally, because when I first started my channel, This Is Not a Top 10 was one of my original ideas. Talk about fragrances with a specific note in my collection. And cardamom is one of my favorite spices. It's basically a very fresh, spice that kind of gives you both aromatic and spicy facets at the same time. Okay, so it can have a hint of pepper, it can have a hint of lemon, it can be a warm spice, all right, and it goes very well with allspice and cinnamons and nutmegs and very cozy, earthy, flavored like smell. Okay, but it can also have this very cooling like element. So it can be warming and it can be cooling sometimes. It really depends on the type of cardamom. We're going to talk about all different types of cardamoms today. Black cardamom, green cardamom, cardamom CO2 extracts, everything you can think of. Cardamom absolutes in here. Guatemala cardamom, which is kind of the most popular place where cardamom comes from. But so it's very warm, spicy. Some even say it can have a camphor-aceous like note. With woody, balsamic-like undertones, but that's kind of the scent profile. So let's get started. Let's do scent of the day first, and then we're going to just dive right into it. So scent of the day for me was Oud Zen, probably one of the Amouage L'Adore fragrances that if you just said, Ramsey, I'm going to let you have a full bottle of an Amouage L'Adore that you do not have, go. This and Oud Picante are very high on the list all of a sudden. Oh man, And this is all the juice I have left. I wore it as my scent of the day today, and I have just been in oud heaven. It is slightly chocolatey, but nowhere near as chocolatey as Russian oud. It goes, there's this turmeric note. There's this lava-like warmth. It gives hints of Russian oud, but like a heavier, smokier version, if that makes sense. And I am just in love with this. I mean, I really want a bottle, but it's impossible to find. But very resonant, slightly animalic because he's mixed it with castoreum and all these different resins and balsams, and it's just an oud lover's dream, Oud Zen. Okay, so let's get started. This is going to be a hell of a video, so hope you have your seatbelt on. So, okay, so to begin with, and I hope I don't break any bottles because I am surrounded by bottles, but first, we're going to start with 4160 Tuesdays. This is called Shazam. Not a house that I am really in love with. To be fair, I have not smelled everything from the house. But Sarah McCartney, some people really love her. I'm kind of on the fence. This is a little bit like a fresh patchouli to me. It's got this fresh chocolatey cacao absolute feeling with a little bit of frankincense. That cardamom is in there with the spice. And labdanum, lots of like sticky resins and patchouli, but done in like a fresh style, if that makes sense. So there's this orange juice and tangerine note in here, which makes it feel very, very fresh. There's some holy basil, atlas cedar, juniper berry. If you're looking for a fresh cedar, Shazam might be one, or a fresh patchouli, Shazam might be one to check out. Okay. Next on the list, we have an Acqua di Parma fragrance, and this is great for this time of year, for the summer. This is called Colonia Intensa. It's basically a sort of take on the very traditional Colonia DNA. It was done by Francois Demachy and Alberto Morias back in 2007. And it is lots of citruses, Calabrian bergamot. If you like that citrusy, fresh style, this is definitely one to check out. Very great, very professional type fragrance. Like if you're trying to make a good first impression, this is easy one that I could recommend. People love this, and it does dry down, slightly leathery, slightly woody, and the cardamom is in the top along with some very zesty ginger. So Colonia Intensa, not my favorite type of fragrance, but people respond well to it, especially in the warm weather. So that is Colonia Intensa. Okay, next on the list we have a couple Acqua di Parmas. I did not bother digging out all the samples. That would have been impossible, but I do have a review of this on the channel if you want to check it out. It's Acqua di Parma's Colonia Sandalo, which is a sandalwood fragrance from 2016 that used to come in the brown bottles from Acqua di Parma that they have since discontinued. And there was a very beautiful note of Indian sandalwood in here. So go watch my review if you want to learn a little bit more about that one. And also, someone very kindly sent me a decant of Colonia Quercia, which is basically a oak fragrance. I think there's oak moss and oak in here, if I'm not mistaken. I think Quercia basically means oak in Italian. And both of these, Colonia Sandalo and Colonia Quercia, in the 2016 bottles are discontinued. So it's like a woody, cedar, oaky type fragrance with cardamom in the heart, along with some geranium. Okay, next on the list, we have another sample, which I'll be talking about on the channel soon, from the house of Adi Alavan, and it's called Diamanitron Elixir Atonement. So if you just go to Ali Alavan, you'll pull it up. It's the one that came out this year. Very smoky green fragrance with cardamom in the top and a very strange note of aged paper. So I don't think I've ever seen an aged paper note specifically. I've seen some notes like papyrus in a perfume, but never aged paper. So I'm really excited to dive into this brand. I think I'm going to do an Adi Alavan live stream. So yes, and I'll put all of the names in the description. God help me, but I'll do it. Okay, next on the list is an Alain Delon fragrance, and this is Iquitos. Discontinued, but one of my all-time favorite Gerard Anthony creations. Although Parfumo doesn't list Gerard Anthony, only Fragrantica. That worries me, but this is cardamom, ginger, mandarin orange, rose, cedar, patchouli, sandalwood, vetiver, musk, leather, and amber. It's very musky, woody, spicy. And this was the fragrance that just fell short of being Dior's Poison. It was going to be Dior's Poison, but Edward Fleischier's version, I believe, won out, rightly so. And so Alain Delon ended up making it a masculine fragrance in the late 80s because heavy floral fragrances targeted towards men were becoming very popular in the 80s. And so there's a lot of things like rose. There's probably other flowers in here as well that are not listed, but definitely there's a big rose note in here, and it turns very musky, leathery, and animalic, like there's some civet. I think there's some civet in here that's not listed in the note listing in Parfumo. Okay, next on the list is a fragrance from American Perfumer, and it's done by Mark Sage, the owner of Clandestine Laboratories, and I reviewed this on the channel because there was a limited release that came out just a month or two ago, and it's called Lockdown. And so he released a version, I believe, in 2023, and then they did a 2024 release, I believe, of the same, well, slightly different. There was some sort of reformulation, but really interesting, citrusy, animalic that was spicy. The cardamom with some interesting notes like cascarilla, Chinese weeping cypress, civet. So if you're into interesting, different fragrances, go check out my review of Lockdown by American Perfumer. Next on the list, an Amouage. Now, as far as like houses go, there's a handful of houses that I think, like when I think of cardamom, I think of houses like Amouage, Bortnikoff. You can put those on the list. And Bortnikoff's son, even Maxim, does some really good, he has a brand which we'll be talking about in this is not a top 10, called Maxim Perfumes, which I did a live stream on the channel. And he does a really good cardamom note as well. So when it comes to cardamom, There's a couple houses to check out, but Amouage is definitely one of them. The first one we're going to talk about is called Ashore, and it's a Mackenzie Riley creation. Maybe my favorite from Mackenzie Riley, believe it or not. I liked Ashore a lot more than most people did. It was like a creamy floral, but it was very well done. I liked the way it was like counterpointed with the spices, curcuma leaf and cardamom and pink pepper CO2 in the top, and this very interesting solar note that came into play, along with ambergris and frankincense absolute. Go watch my review of Ashore if you're interested in learning more about that. It came out in 2020. And then next on the list, we have a fragrance that I have to say thank you to Allie for very kindly sending this my way. She got a heck of a deal on it, she said, and just wanted to send me a bottle. And I'm so glad to have it because I really like this stuff. This only leaves like a couple more in the women's collection that I really want to add. But this one's called Beloved Woman. And Beloved Woman is the complete opposite of Beloved Man. Beloved Man, I believe I have a review of Beloved Man on the channel. You can go check it out. But Beloved Woman is like this amazing sort of floral chypre, like an old school animalic spicy floral chypre with all kind of notes in here. Clove blossom, chamomile, clary sage, lavender, cardamom, rose, jasmine, everlasting flower, frankincense, cistus, patchouli, benzoin, violet, ylang ylang, cedarwood, civet, leather, castoreum, musk, sandalwood, amber, vanilla, and caramel. Bernard Elena did this fragrance, believe it or not. And I think someone may have said Bernard Elena is Jean-Claude Elena's brother or cousin or something, I forget. But either way, it's a hell of a fragrance, and very underrated. It is still available to be purchased, I believe, but it came out in 2012, and with the way the Fishman is kind of going, it worries me. But the cardamom in here is beautiful. It basically turns into a spicy floriental, animalic floriental, I should say. Very well done. Next on the list, we have Boundless, one of my least favorite Amouages that I have a full bottle of. I've got a full review if you want to check it out. I just thought that this was a little bit past its time. Like, you know, doing a tobacco vanille type fragrance for Amouage in 2021 just seemed very, you know, it could have been, I think, executed much better. They decided to play it very, very safe. Maybe one of the safest Amouages, and I think for me, that was the time when I blind bought Boundless, and when I got it, it didn't take me but 1 second. When I smelled it, I went, Amouage is finished. Like they're choosing to go in a completely different direction by choice. And they're turning away from their sort of innovative past. And Boundless, go watch my review if you want to hear me bitch a little bit about Boundless and the Fishman. Okay, next on the list, we have a fragrance from Amouage called Ciel Man. Ciel is one of the few Amouages I've yet to review. Look at the dent. That is my dent, by the way. I wear the piss out of Ciel, especially in the heat. It's one of my favorite Amouages to wear in the heat. It is discontinued, unfortunately, but it's kind of like this laundered lavender with spicy, woody aspects underneath, with a very fresh, imagine like a very ripe peach note. So it's got fruits, it's got spices, and the nutmeg, cardamom, and cinnamon play together brilliantly. The copy on this, when it came out, was something about sort of like a spring thunderstorm coming through. And just imagine on a hot day, you know, a spring storm comes through with the lightning and all that good stuff. It is beautiful in the rain, I won't lie, but the silver frankincense was supposed to be like raindrops and stuff like that. Sandalwood, cedar, vetiver, and patchouli as well. But that sort of laundered lavender note in the top is something very unique with Amouage. You don't see Amouage doing a fragrance like this, but when it comes to, you know, easy to wear summer Amouages, this and Beloved Man kind of top my list. I love wearing these in the heat. Okay. God, there's so many fragrances with cardamom. Next on the list, we have a fragrance I just reviewed a couple days ago, and it is called Dia Man. And it's got a beautiful cardamom, frankincense, labdanum, and bitter orange in the opening. And of course, that beautiful, very subdued peony. You can go watch my full review. Just put it up on the channel. Dia Man is an absolute just masterpiece by Bertrand Duchaufour, really when Bertrand Duchaufour was at the top of his game. Okay, next on the list is called Enclave. I've reviewed it on the channel. You can check it out, but I reviewed it off a decant. I'm not hunting down the decant, but if you're a fan of like spearmint, minty notes with spices like cardamom in the top and then frankincense, and it's got a huge amber extreme and Saffiano note. Saffiano apparently is supposed to sort of reference this leather making material that they use in high-end handbags. You can look it up. But Amber Extreme is IFF fragrance ingredient that just lasts and lasts and lasts. I could smell this the next day every single time I tested it. It did grow on me a lot more than Meander. I really liked Enclave more, but not enough where I would want to go get a bottle. So, but that is Enclave by Amouage. Okay, next on the list is one of my favorite Amouages of all time. I really think that it's if you want to study spice, like this is a fragrance to do it with. It's Epic Man, and you can go watch my review. And you know, I've had this forever, and that dent right there again doesn't look like a lot, but man, this stuff is strong. When you wear it, you don't need very much. So, and the best fragrance Rhonda Hamami ever did, hands down, no doubt about it. It's got this beautiful green myrtle mixed with spice in the opening, frankincense, cardamom, nutmeg, cumin, mace, saffron, myrrh, and then a bunch of woods, some castoreum, some leather in the base, and of course the frankincense. And if you can just imagine being on the Silk Road in the middle of the desert, camels around you sleeping, you and your posse are telling stories to each other. It's cold because it's the desert. It's hot as hell during the day, and it's cold at night. And you take some spice and throw it on the fire, and it just turns green and just shoots up into the sky. That is Epic Man for me. It is so masculine, though, so beautiful. A woman, I swear to God, this is true. A woman once told me when I was wearing this, that is what a man should smell like. And I was like, really? Do you know what it is? It's Amouage Epic. She goes, I don't care what it is. That is what a man should smell like. I was like, okay. But yes, Epic Man is truly epic. Okay, next on the list, we have Journey Man. And again, I've got reviews of Epic. I've got a full review of Journey. If you want to check it out, maybe one of the most regal, maybe one of my favorite bottles with that gold, that liquid gold look on the side with the royal red. Oh man, and the Sichuan pepper and cardamom hit you right from the beginning here. But it's sort of offset by this very fresh Neroli. So there's a freshness to this. This is not one of the heavier Amouages. It's not going to fall into the interludes or epics. Journey, if you feel like wearing a spicy fragrance in the heat, Journey actually works really well because it's got juniper and some other fresh notes, frankincense resins, and beautiful tobacco with some cypriol. One of my favorite cypriol examples in a perfume. I really, really like Journey. Okay, next on the list we have Journey Woman. And there's an Amouage live stream. You can go check it out. This has a beautiful jasmine tea note with osmanthus, apricot, cardamom, and some honeyed, like powdery mimosa. And again, it also has cypriol and tobacco in the base. But Journey Woman, I really liked. But I think there's another Amouage which I would put ahead of it. If I could grab one more women's Amouage, I'll tell you which one it is when we get there. Next on the list is Lyric Woman, which I reviewed on the channel. You can check it out. It's almost like a more masculine rose compared to Lyric Man, although I really love Lyric Man. I'm going to review it on the channel soon. But the cardamom, cinnamon, rose, geranium, iris, ylang, angelica, slightly green from the angelica, but of course it's got that frankincense and some jasmine. It's a beautiful floral fragrance, easily worn by a man, like a spicy floral. Go watch my review if you want to learn more about that. And then Memoir Woman is the one, I think if you said, Ramsey, you could grab one or two more women's Amouages. It would be Memoir Woman and Overture Woman. Those two like really stuck with me. Memoir Woman is so complex and deep, and just it's got everything, you know, that you could ask for in a fragrance. Same as the men's version, in that they both kind of blew me away. But Memoir Woman, I was shocked by how much I liked it. And it's got that castoreum, the animalic bits in the base with some fenugreek, leather, labdanum, frankincense, and very dark woods. I mean, the bottle's black. But Dorothy Pio and Daniel Moriel are the perfumers, and the cardamom is in the top, along with a green absinthe note, which You know, I think you also get in Memoir Man as well, but just an amazing, amazing fragrance. I would love to have a bottle of that one day. Okay, next on the list we have um, some more Amouages. We actually have, let's see. We've got some from the library collection, and I've reviewed many of these on the channel. All the ones we're going to talk about today, I've done reviews on the channel. So the first one's called Opus 1. It was done by Danielle Mordial again. And that was probably one of the weaker opuses for me, Opus 1. I liked it. I didn't think it was a bad fragrance. It was like a floral, spicy fragrance with some frankincense and papyrus and stuff in the base. But um, it was the most forgettable, one of the more forgettable opuses, I would say. But you can go watch my review if you want to learn more about that. Opus 2 was a little bit better. I remember it. I think this was the one that was sort of had a little bit of this like green sort of fougere bay leaf thing going on from memory, with some cardamom in the heart, frankincense, patchouli, amber, and musk. And Opus 2 was done by Michelle Satamito. No one talks about Opus 1, 2, or 3 or 4 anymore. Opus 4 is the next on the list. It has cardamom in the heart as well, with cumin and rose hip. And I remember this is the one that was done by Jacques Flory. And this is the one on the really early opuses. I think I would take Opus 4 because I remember this felt like it sort of highlighted. Opus 3 and Opus 4 were my favorites from the really early line of opuses, because Opus 3 reminded me a little bit of like a vintage Guerlain. Opus 4 reminded me of like taking bits and pieces from different Amouage fragrances over the years and then kind of combining them together. I really liked Opus 4. The cumin, the cardamom, the rose hip, which is in Gold Man, as you all may know. So yes, Opus 4 was really well done. And then we're going to jump to Opus 7, Reckless Leather. Again, I've got reviews of all of these on the channel if you want to dive into it. But this is maybe one of my favorites, with that green galbanum and that very furry sort of costus root. Costus is a very animalic note. It can literally smell like an animal's fur. It can smell like the bed an animal sleeps in, you know? Costus root is a very tough ingredient for perfumers to work with. It's very spicy and woody, and this fragrance is extremely leathery and very I would say it's unique. You know, I don't think I've ever smelled anything that really smells like Opus 7. Go check out my review. Amazing fragrance. And then probably the other Amouage, if you said, okay, Ramsey, you've got your 2 women's fragrances, which men's fragrance do you want to add? Well, this is unisex because it's from the Opus line, but Royal Tobacco, that would be the one Amouage that I would add right now to the collection. I love the smoky, spicy, oily aspects of it. It's got the cardamom in the top, and if you want to study cardamom, the cardamom in the top of Royal Tobacco is beautiful, with the anise and that frankincense oil. It literally feels oily, you know. It's mixed with elemi to soften it up a little bit, I think, because there's some really heavy notes in here with the tobacco absolute and resins and licorice and all this stuff. But I really liked Royal Tobacco. I think probably one of the best things that the Fishman has done since being at Amouage. Okay, next on the list we've got another Amouage, the final Amouage, and it is Overture Man. So again, Amouage is like the house for cardamom. I don't know what to say, but Overture is cognac, cumin, grapefruit in the top. Go watch my review. I absolutely love this stuff. The labdanum, the myrrh, the animalic notes. Oh, it's so good. And then the cardamom is in the top of Overture. But many of those have full reviews, so you can dive into them more if you'd like. Next on the list, and we got to get a move on, or this is going to be a 3-hour video. This is Aramis, the original Aramis from 1964. The cardamom is in the heart in this case, and this is a Bernard Chant masterpiece, one of the greatest leathery chypres you can smell. I mean, Bernard Chant was the king of leather chypres, and this is like taking you to school. I mean, this is literally taking you to school. If you've never smelled this, and you're a fan of vintage perfumery, you have to get your nose. If you can find a bottle that says cologne, I mean, you don't have to go much older than that. All you have to do is find one that says cologne on it, and you're good. I hear even the new stuff is quite good still, but if you can find an older bottle of Aramis, do it. Next on the list is an Amouage Ladore, and it is called Agar de Noir. So I've reviewed this on the channel. You can check it out. Agar de Noir is a spicy, woody fragrance with calamus and cardamom, arnica in the top, with some Laotian oud, and this very powdery violet. It's the powdery violet and coffee combination that gets me here, with some real ambergris, some saffron, some Indian oud, but it's not super animalic, okay? Slightly animalic, not super animalic. You're not going to get like this big barnyard note with benzoin, tonka, labdanum, and Peru balsam. So, yes, you can see the note listing right there if you want to pause it and read that. An amazing fragrance. Very, very interesting stuff. Most people don't think about a coffee fragrance when they think of Agar de Noir, but this is one that that I really enjoy wearing. Okay. Next on the list, we have Atlantic Ambergris. Again, there's a full review. You can check it out. One of my favorite ambergris fragrances. This is very heavy on the nutmeg, though. It does have cardamom in the top with Russian pine, so it can be green with the sort of white ambergris. I think it was Irish white ambergris, if memory serves, but champaca flower, clove, nutmeg, cardamom's in the top, but the nutmeg is like the big overdose for me in Atlantic Ambergris. And then we've got Inverno Russo, one of my favorite true real musk fragrances that no one talks about. I know it's very hard to find. This is back when they used to individually number the bottles. So this is number 58. But Inverno Russo from 2017, my God, man. I mean, this is, I think from memory, this is supposed to be like the inside, you're sitting inside of your cabin, the white Russian winter is outside, there's a white rose otto in the top of this with some white pepper. The white pepper is very noticeable on the top, and then you get this real deer musk with civet, and he tinctured both the pod and the musk here, and the the outer the leathery sort of outer sac of the pod, not just the granular inside, but that leathery outer part of the pod as well, and that makes it even more animalic. So I love the deer musk here. There's cardamom in the heart of this fragrance, with clove and some other spices and osmanthus and amazing florals along with the musk. But what a musk fragrance that is! That is just, it highlights the beauty of real deer musk. Okay. Next on the list, we have Ottoman Empire. I've reviewed it on the channel. You can check it out. Multiple types of rose. Probably one of my favorite rose ouds I don't have a full bottle of. Again, if I could just grab a couple of Amouage Ladores, it would be a full bottle of Oud Zen, then Ottoman Empire for me. I love wearing it. I love wearing it in the summer for some reason. Like, I get this craving in the heat to wear Ottoman Empire. It's weird. And then, of course, Oud Picante. You can go watch my review. I actually said it was too much when I wore it at first, but that has really, really grown on me. I've got like half a mil left, and I'm like cherishing my Oud Picante. The cardamom is in the in the top, excuse me, with the cumin and clove and cinnamon and nutmeg. Lots of spices in Oud Picante. That was part of the second collection. God, this video is a madness. Okay, next on the list, we have an Armani called Eau de Nuit Oud, which I reviewed on the channel. It's a discontinued sort of designer take on oud from Armani. I thought it was okay, though, because it was oud and iris, Orris Concrete, which I actually liked it, along with some tonka bean. The cardamom was in the top, but very designer take on oud. Next is the Astrophil and Stella fragrance called Petty Shetty, which I hated. One of my most hated fragrances I've ever come across. Nathalie Feistauer is the perfumer, and she made a very sweet gourmand with Guatemala cardamom in the top, but it was the vanilla and just the disgusting designer sweetness of that I did not like. There is another from the brand called Nabati, which I have, and that's supposed to be leathery and spicy, done by Christian Provenzano. I'll give that a try. I won't give up on the brand yet. That has cardamom in the top with rum and ambrette, which I love, saffron, sea salt, divana, Moroccan rose, iris, marine notes, leather. That seems more my style, but we'll see. I'll try the brand one more time. Somehow I have a sample of Luna Feline by Atelier d'Ors from 2020. The X-ray, cardamom in the top with cinnamon, styrax, ambergris, cedar, woods, Tahitian, vanilla, Peru balsam, and musk. And then we go to another full bottle, and this is the great Azzaro Porom, one of the greatest barbershop fougères of all time. James Bond in a bottle. Lavender, anise, one of the best anise notes you'll ever smell, along with cardamom in the heart, wood, cedarwood, sandalwood, vetiver, patchouli. I love this stuff. I need to review this. Gerard Anthony, Martine Heidenreich, and Richard Wirtz. I think I saw, oh God, what's his name? The guy that writes those books that perfume the guide. Luca Turin said that he's been told, or he has heard from perfumers, like 30 different perfumers try and take credit for this because this was so influential. In fact, I smelled a fragrance just yesterday for the first time from the great Amouage called Vetiver Dry by Caravan, which is a flanker of Vetiver. And it smelled like a Azzaro Porom Fougère take. Actually crazy, but it's true. I'll review this one of these days as well. But this does not smell like a heavy vetiver fragrance. It smells like a aromatic fougère that was, dominated by Azzaro Porom. And that's a decade later. So just goes to show how influential Azzaro Porom was. Okay, staying with the House of Azzaro. Man, we haven't even made a dent in the amount of bottles that I have to show you guys. This video is going to be nuts. So this is called Actor, one of my favorite masculine rose fragrances. It's got calamus and cardamom in the top. You can still find this for respectable prices. As crazy as vintage perfume prices are, you can still find this at a respectable price. I'll review it one of these days. If you like Aramis 900 or Aromatics Elixir, check out Actor. Okay, next on the list is another discontinued fragrance from the House of Azzaro, and this is called Visit. Now, Visit gets compared to Gucci Rush, which I reviewed on the channel, which is also discontinued. But this is a woody, spicy, generic woody kind of designer fragrance created by Annick Minardo, but it's an Annick Minardo, and she does not make bad fragrances as far as I'm concerned. It's a well done, like if designer woody fragrances are your thing, you have to check this out. The cardamom and the nutmeg and pink pepper with frankincense and this ambergris accord with Gaiac wood, blue Lebanon cedar, and a little bit of musk. It's actually really good for a designer. It's hard because after smelling stuff like this, and wearing stuff like this, going back to the designer game is really tough on me. It's almost like taking a step backwards. I hate to say that, but it is. Okay, next on the list we have a fragrance from the House of Beaufort called Vie et Aramis. It's a smoky, spicy fragrance with cardamom in the top, with black tea, black pepper, opium poppy, fruits, whiskey, frankincense, tobacco, birch, labdanum, oud, patchouli. Sounds like it's right up my alley, but that's a sample, so we'll have to get to that one of these days. Okay, next on the list, we've got 3 Bodicea the Victorious fragrances, which I have a Bodicea the Victorious live stream on the channel. You can check it out. I think we talked about these on that live stream. One's called Azrak, cardamom's in the top. The other's called Blue Sapphire, cardamom's in the heart. And then Monarch, and the cardamom is in the heart as well. Okay, let's get to Bortnikoff's, because Amouage is one house that has big cardamom, known for their cardamom scents. The other is Bortnikoff. So first I'm going to show, and all of these have been reviewed by me. So the first one is going to be Amber Cologne. Perfect for the heat. Perfect for like a classy event in the heat. Father's Day, this would have been perfect for 4th of July. Even though I chose to go with Moss Brex. But this is a ton of citruses with cardamom, a reference cardamom in the top, by the way, and beautiful ambergris in the base, brown and gray or white ambergris, if you will, with just a little bit of fresh oud. Go watch my review. It's amazing. Amber Cologne by Bortnikoff. Next on the list is a fragrance called Bonaire, which was one of his earlier releases in 2018. Came out a year before Amber Cologne. Go Go watch my review. That's a reference cardamom as far as I'm concerned. Also a beautiful champaka, Tajits, frangipani, oak moss, ambergris. It was almost like deconstructing Bortnikoff, you know, like smelling. Most of the work I smelled came after Bonaire, and then going back and smelling Bonaire was like, you know, it just felt like I was smelling like a rough draft of a Bortnikoff, you know, and it's discontinued and hard to find. I would not pay big money for that, by the way. Okay, next on the list is one of my favorite musk fragrances called Musk Habib. Now, the thing about Musk Habib is that it's very, very floral. So there's a huge note of ylang ylang in here, huge. But you will get the cardamom in the top with the bergamot, nutmeg, cedarwood, tolu balsam, deer musk, ambergris, and tolu balsam. I've come to really love this fragrance. But the style of musks are night and day compared to a Riche Ladore. So very, very floral. Go watch my review if you want kind of some details. But the cardamom in the top is beautiful. Okay, next on the list we have Mysterious Oud, and this is kind of like Bortnikoff's Oriental Oud, if you will. Whoops, this is not Mysterious Oud. You're the next one on the list. You must be Mysterious Oud. Yes, you are. So there you go, Mysterious Oud. You can watch my review. Very spicy, woody, cardamom, orange. That orange note really runs through the fragrance, and lots of heavy Oriental notes. Like imagine you're smelling opium or KL by Lagerfeld, or you know, those type of fragrances. And then add that Bortnikoff like oud. There's Indian oud, there's oud, there's Apopanax, there's resins, and the cardamom is in the top, of course. That cardamom in the top is almost like a patent, like a Bortnikoff patent, if you will. The way he uses the cardamom is kind of reference for me. And then we've got Oud Maximus, one of my favorite rose ouds. Multiple types of oud in the base. You can check it out. But again, full review on the channel. This is Oud Maximus 2020, but I hear any of the Oud Maximuses are good from my understanding. Again, very woody, very floral. Lots of different types of rose. Himalayan rose, May rose, Indian rose. There's like a rose attar in here, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, attar gulab, they call it. And then multiple types of ouds, and cardamom in the top. So that is Oud Maximus. And then if you're into like a jasmine oud, he did one called Oud Sinaharaja, which has a beautiful jasmine and frangipani combination. The frangipani is, from memory, very like tropical smelling. But cardamom, pink grapefruit, bergamot, and magnolia with the Sri Lankan and Philippine and Indian oud was beautiful. I enjoyed Oud Sinaharaja, but again, there's a full review if you want to hear my thoughts. Okay, so that's Bortnikoff. So next on the list we have Jaipur Om from the house of Boucheron, which again, Annick Monardo, one of the best Oriental quote-unquote value for money fragrances you can buy. I think I got this for like $30 or something. This is the Eau de Toilette. You could also get the Eau de Parfum. The Eau de Toilette's a little bit more wearable in the heat, but it's got that heliotrope, which makes it very chewy, spongy with the cardamom and lots of vanillas, cinnamons, ambers, tonka, benzoin, that kind of thing. Really like Jaipur Om. Okay, next on the list, we've got a fragrance from the house of Bourjois, from 1975. This is discontinued, unfortunately, and I think this was a cheapie. It was like a drugstore fragrance or something back in the day, but this is called Masculine 2. And Masculine 2 is very spicy and fresh. Lots of citruses in the top. So you get orange and grapefruit and bergamot and all that stuff with Tuscany, basil, cardamom, nutmeg, Virginia cedar, geranium, and vetiver. So it's very like aromatic and spicy and fresh. Very masculine. Very traditionally masculine, I should say. Okay, next on the list we have a fragrance from the house of Broken Anatomy Perfumes. I've got a sample set somewhere. I'll do a live stream on it one of these days. It's called Brain Dance, and it's aldehydes, ambroxans, anise, cardamom, geranium, and oak moss absolute. So anyways, but that's coming. Bulgari Porom Extreme from 1999 is next on the list. And this is the Eau de Toilette version. They have a brand new Eau de Parfum of this out, believe it or not. But if you like very fresh 90s style, citrusy, metallic, there's a little bit of tea, A little bit of green galbanum in here with lavender, pepper, cardamom, nutmeg, and then a bunch of designer smelling woods in the base, cedar and sandalwood. Jacques Cavalier made this, so I mean it's a good fragrance. And you know he's the in-house perfumer for LVMH right now. So okay, next on the list we've got a fragrance called Biblos pour homme, or Biblos for men, depending on when you bought it or where you bought it. This came out in 1993. It is discontinued. And I've often said, if you want like a fragrance that you can wear in the heat that isn't just a citrus kind of aromatic, this does have citruses in it and a lot of well done ones, but it's got other things that set it apart. So it's got violet leaf, it's got aromatic and leathery smelling thyme and green artemisia and all this stuff. But very well done in the heat. Cardamom is in the top. Okay, next on the list we have a discontinued fragrance from the house of Cacharel called Nemo. Nemo. And again, if you want like a designer smelling cardamom, a reference designer smelling spicy type fragrance, this is it. This is lots of cardamom and nutmeg with lavender and some old school carnation, which I really like. And it sits on a base of patchouli, vanilla, cedar, and leather. Really good design. Actually, probably one of my favorites that I've come across from the house of Cacharel. And I haven't smelled a vintage bottle of Cacharel Pour L'Homme, but that's on the list. Okay, 2011, Calvin Klein put out CK1 Shock for him. You used to be able to get this 200 ml bottle for like $19. I don't know if you still can, but for 200 mils of juice, I don't know if you can do much better value as far as price per mil goes than that. It is a little bit sweet, but it's a tobacco fragrance, and Loc Dong of IFF made it. And the cardamom is in the heart, along with some pepper, black basil, but it's the ambrine, patchouli, tobacco, musk thing that I really enjoy. It is sweet, but I think it's like for a high school or a college kid, I think that would go really well. Okay, next on the list we've got Chanel's Pour Monsieur. I just had to cheat and show off my vintage bottle. I just did an unboxing. If you want to get like a first impression, go check it out. But this has cardamom in the heart, along with a lot of lemon, orange, neroli, vervain, basil, ginger, coriander. Henri Robert from the very famous Robert family. Guy Robert comes from that same family. Made Pour Monsieur, or a gentleman's cologne, if you will. Also, I could have grabbed the Eau de Toilette Concentré, which was done by oh god, it is 11:13 at night. It was done by Jacques Paul, excuse me, in '89. That is discontinued. That version that has cardamom in it as well. Okay, next on the list we've got a fragrance from the house of Carolina Herrera. This is called CH Men Privé. It is a very sort of sweet take on a liqueur fragrance. I mean, it looks like a damn flask, okay? I actually enjoy this though. You know, it's getting harder and harder for me to enjoy designers, and I don't like sweet fragrances for the most part, but this is one of those guilty pleasure fragrances. Christophe Renaud made it. It's got whiskey, leather, cardamom, lavender, sage, red thyme. I like it for what it is. I know what it is, but I still like it. Okay, next on the list is a house that I really would like to talk more about. This is from the house of Carner, Barcelona, and this is called D600. D600 has this Guatemalan cardamom in the heart, but it's got this beautiful Italian iris. It reminds me a lot of Dior Homme, a lot like a take on Dior Homme, but a very well done take. I think the House of Carner deserves some more love. I'm gonna try to dive more into that house. Okay, next on the list, and again, if you're kind of keeping notes of some serious sort of spicy fragrances to check out, this is one you need to put on the list. This is the great Cartier's Declaration. This basically got Jean-Claude Elena hired at Hermes because they were like, dude, he's making a fragrance that's like an homage to an Hermes fragrance for our competitor, Cartier. They were like, we have to hire this guy. And they did. They hired him as in-house perfumer a couple years later. Declaration is an homage to Eau de Hermes, which is coming up later as well. That has cardamom in it, but the cardamom here is in the heart. We got to get a move on, or this is never gonna end. My God. There was a flanker that was done after Jean-Claude Elena left. Excuse me. Sorry to do that in your ear. Whenever Mathilde Laurent took over, she did a flanker of Cartier Declaration, which has done surprisingly well. And it was called Declaration d'un Soir. And Declaration d'un Soir is a rose-heavy take on the Declaration DNA. So it's got cardamom, pepper, cumin, but with a lot of rose and nutmeg. And it sits on a sandalwood base. It's actually a really nice designer for a rose-heavy, floral, spicy, masculine. And then she decided to continue playing with the Declaration DNA. And in 2018, she released Declaration Parfum. And so the Parfum is a kind of like a version of Declaration with all of the heavier bits amped up, so there's more leather, more oriental notes. There is still cardamom and cedar. And there is a little bit of an amber wood in here you'll pick up. It doesn't bother me though, because I think Mathilde Laurent's a good perfumer. She knows how to dose all that stuff, but if you're one of those people that smells one micromolecule of an amber wood and you run, you may not like the Parfum. Okay, next on the list is a fragrance from Olivier Cresp from the House of Cerruti. And it's actually, again, speaking of spicy, woody fragrances that are done well, this is 1881 Bella Notte is what it's called. Bella Notte. Cerruti 1881 Bella Notte. This is a very sort of designer smelling, but interesting. There's some interesting notes in here. There's Sichuan pepper, which you usually don't find in a designer. A lot of times you just see pink pepper. Sichuan pepper, coriander, juniper, key lime, and then it's black cardamom, nutmeg, night blooming jasmine, Ceylon cinnamon, vanilla, cedar, musk, and patchouli. It's actually really well done. The woody notes feel proper. And unfortunately it's discontinued, but I'll review it one of these days. But I actually really liked Bella Notte. Okay, next on the list is one I plan on talking about on the channel from Chapel Factory called Holy Stick. Cardamom, clove, elemi, frankincense on Palo Santo wood. So that is to be discussed one of these days. Also a fragrance from Christian Louboutin called Loubi Rouge with cardamom, vanilla, and iris. I wasn't as impressed with that. Next on the list we have, but I will review it or talk about it eventually. Okay. Next on the list we've got some Clive Christian fragrances. So first we're going to talk about the one I reviewed, which is number 1 for men, which is a very floral, powdery. I'm talking extremely powdery. Like, imagine you're in pre-Revolutionary War era, and all of the founding fathers are wearing powdered wigs, powdery, okay? It does have a bell pepper note, which I don't know how I feel about bell pepper in my perfume, but it is there, along with cardamom. You can watch my review if you want to see the whole story. But probably one of my favorite Clive Christians, which I have not reviewed yet, is called X for Men. X is like a modern sort of take on that Halston Z14 DNA. Very spicy, very woody. It was done by Giza Schoen. And green cardamom. I love green cardamom. Green cardamom is in the top, along with some ginger, but it's kind of the cinnamon that really stands out in this, and the woods, the cinnamon and woods. But I really like X. X is one of the best Clive Christians that you can buy, and there's not many, in my opinion, that are worth buying. Okay, the final Clive Christian on this list is, oh God, C for Men. Wait, before we open this, we have to say, it's like religion at Channel Ram. Ostrich box, me lord. Yes, ostrich box indeed. This is C for Men. C for Men is another one which I'll get around to reviewing one of these days. Talked about it on the channel ad nauseum. I've worn the piss out of it too. I mean, you can see just how much of that I've worn. I love this stuff. It's like a Tom Ford Tuscan leather take, like Tuscan. Imagine if it was called Tuscan Leather Extreme, it would work perfect. They claim there's oud in here. They claim there's mate tea and all this other stuff that's not in Tuscan leather, but but it smells like Tuscan leather intense, if you will, or extreme. Um, but there's Costas, there's Cardamom in the heart with some raspberry, and it smells like Tuscan leather. It came out a couple years after Tuscan leather, but I really enjoy it. Okay, next on the list is a fragrance I reviewed on the channel called Costume National Homme Parfum from 2020. I really, really like that. Like if you want a well done woody fragrance with some cardamom in the top, that's one to check out. Rich Mitch says it smells like it could be a Tom Ford. I completely agree. And then also one that I plan on discussing on the channel soon is called Soul. And Soul is a Dominique Ropion creation. Actually, Costume National Homme Parfum is also a Dominique Ropion. But Soul is cardamom, bergamot, pink pepper, leather, geranium, oud, vanilla, patchouli, and ambergris. This has oud and ambergris, but it feels like, it feels a little ambery, a little oudy, but kind of a very bright take on a amber, if you will. It doesn't bring you down. It's not a heavy amber. It's not like Amber Extreme or Amber Absolute, excuse me. It's not like Amber Absolute, which is one of the heaviest ambers I've ever smelled. I really enjoy amber like that sometimes, but this is the opposite. This is like uplifting. It's got soul. Sorry, I had to. Okay, next on the list, we've got Creed's Royal Oud, which this is my second flacon of this, just to give you an example of how much I love this. Now, the first flacon was half of this size. It was the 250 mil. And then the next time I said, fuck it, I'm going for the 500 mil. Mostly because I got a 2016 batch, which is before Creed sold out to BlackRock and everything went to shit. Relatively speaking. So I'm very happy to have this, and I love Royal Oud, but it easily could be called Royal Cedar, as some have pointed out, and it's got galbanum in the top, angelica, that galbanum angelica combination with the cedar wood and the Vietnamese oud, and ambergris and frankincense, mixes with the cardamom and creates a brilliant, I used to wear this to work like a mother, and I would just spray away. It worked beautifully for the office. I have many. I think Royal Oud is one of the most original Creeds. Creed gets a lot of shit for, making stuff that is run-of-the-mill, copycat this or that, but I think Royal Oud is like one of their best releases. Okay, next on the list is Dior Homme, the original Silver Stem from 2005. I will review this one of these days. One of my favorite iris fragrances. Even though it's a designer, I love the way the lavender comes together with that cacao, iris, cardamom, amber, bergamot. It's just brilliant. Dior Homme from 2005, the original Silver Stem, created by not Francois Demachy, but Olivier Polge. So the Chanel perfumer made one of my favorite Dior, so go figure. Okay, couple Dixit and Zach fragrances, which the brand is basically defunct now. I did a live stream on Nitish, on Nitish's new house called Perito Moreno, excuse me. So Zach basically went and started his own fragrance house as well called A Home World. I've never smelled any of those, but I like what I'm smelling from Perito Moreno. And go check out my live stream if you want to learn a little bit more. But I reviewed a couple from their old brand called Dixit and Zach. One was called Rising Mysore. That's probably one of the best from the brand. Beautiful Indian sandalwood with a lot of other things, but the cardamom is in the heart. Go watch my review if you want to learn more about that. And then Tibetan Encens came out last year in 2023. And that has silver fir, cinnamon, clove, nutmeg, cardamom, lots of nice spice. Sits on a bed of a base that just smells like a Dixit and Zach base. I don't know how else to describe it. If you smell Dixit and Zach fragrances, you'll know exactly what I mean. Okay, next on the list, we've got a fragrance from the house of, hang on. I fear with everything we've been doing, we've been on a hell of a roll, by the way. Okay? With everything that I've been doing, I fear we have forgotten one. So I'm just going to go ahead and just say it now. It is Dior's Leather Oud. I think I did forget one. Yeah, Dior's Leather Oud. So sad. I forgot. I'm going to, you know what? Just so I can make sure I put it in the, just so I can make sure I put it in the write-up at the end. I'm going to include it right now. Excuse me. The Leather Oud is a Francois Demachy. It's probably one of my favorite La Collection Privée or whatever the hell they call it now. It was Maison Christian Dior, and then it went back, and you know. But this is basically lots of beeswax, civet, leather, and oud, and cardamom, and spice, and birch. Very smoky. You know, obviously there are some amber woods to create this DNA, but for a oud that's not a, you know, a Riche Ladurée or Bortnikoff, it's very well done. Very well done. Okay, next on the list we have a fragrance from the house of Dolce & Gabbana. This is the 1994 original sticker bottle version of Dolce & Gabbana Pour Homme. One of my favorite fresh, spicy, woody tobacco fragrances. So classy. I mean, you could wear this any classy event, and you would stand out. It's got this beautiful Italian feel about it. The way the tarragon and the lavender and the sage and the cardamom and the pepper all come together with the tobacco and the woods. And I think the secret ingredient here is the iris. The iris just adds this posh feel. Very Italian though in style. You know, very jumpsuit. You know, imagine like an overweight Italian in a jumpsuit. That's the scent. But I love it. Okay, next on the list is a sample, God knows where, but from the house of DSH Perfumes. It's called Cardamom and Keefy. And guess what it has? Cardamom and Keefy. So we'll see if we can talk about that one of these days. Next on the list, we've got a Dunhill fragrance. And it is called Dunhill's Icon. And if you believe Parfumo, it is discontinued, which is sad if that's true, because I really do think this is one of the best designer fragrances that Carlos Benaim ever created. He did Elizabeth Taylor's White Diamonds. Shout out to all you aldehydic floral lovers. He did Polo Green in 1978. And most of his best work since then has come for Frederic Malle. Of course, he did Music for a While, which I reviewed on the channel. He did Dawn, which I reviewed on the channel. But this gets overlooked by a lot of people. And I really think, you know, for the longest time, this was the reason I never owned a bottle of Terre de Hermes. Because I was like, I got Icon. I don't need Terre de Hermes. This kind of does something that they both go about it differently, but they do it. They kind of are attacking the same lane, if that makes sense. So this has a beautiful neroli in the top, by the way. Neroli Absolute is a historically expensive ingredient. This has beautiful neroli, black pepper, cardamom, juniper, lavender, provincial lavender, sage, oak moss, vetiver, iris, leather, and oud. And for a designer, I thought they really, this is like Dunhill's back, baby. And then they fucked it up with 1,000,001 flankers. Of course they did, but like this, Dunhill Elite, which also has a cardamom note in here. And this is just generic, boring, woody, it's not a bad fragrance. It's just so boring. You know, it's almost like if you made AI make a flanker of Dunhill, that's what they would come up with. Black pepper, cardamom, vetiver, sandalwood, ebony wood, black suede, labdanum. It's just a little boring. Okay. Next on the list is a fragrance from the house of Ensar. It's called Maroc Maharaj or Maroki Maharaja. I reviewed it on the channel. You can check it out. Very green vetiver, blue cypress with a little bit of fig and black tea and papau oud and cardamom and of course Tonkin musk. But Maroki Maharaja for me was probably one of my least favorite Ensars. It had a very like top of the trees, foresty green feel. Yeah, earthy oud. But yeah, go watch my review. It's if I was gonna get a bottle of Ensar, it wouldn't be that. There's a lot of others that I would take in its place, let's say. So Maroki Maharaja. Next one on the list is called Rumi by Ensar, which again I reviewed. Probably one of my favorite coffee fragrances that from Ensar I've ever smelled. He doesn't do many coffee heavy fragrances, but this Arabic coffee in here, Turkish coffee was beautiful. And the cardamom note is in the top with some apricot and clove. So go watch my review of Rumi. Next on the list is a fragrance from Antoine Lee for Eldo, Etat Libre d'Orange, and it was called Vierges et Toreros. So it was like bullfighters and bullfight. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. What does Vierges et Toreros mean? Let me look it up. It means the virgins and the bullfighters. That's right. I remember it was a cool name. The virgins and the bullfighters. So cardamom, bergamot, pepper, tuberose, and again, Antoine Lee has done some amazing things with tuberose. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the other amazing things here later on in the show. Like it's a Netflix show. In the fucking show. But it started here in 2007. Well, maybe it didn't even. Maybe it started even sooner. But this is the earliest one I've found. Virgins and bullfighters. The tuberose in here with the ylang ylang, leather, patchouli, vetiver is a foreshadowing of his career to come with amazing tuberose. Like, for example, in 2016, he created a fragrance called Night Flower by the house of Eris Parfums. I reviewed it on the channel. You can check it out. Night Flower is one of the most amazing Indian tuberose uses I've ever smelled because he's paired it with Russian birch tar, Guatemalan cardamom, suede, Laotian cinnamon, and it's very similar to the way he used the Indian tuberose in Descendres by Les Abstraits, which we will, well, there's a review on the channel if you want to check it out, but there's a lot of stuff on the channel. If you're new to the channel, let's just say I've put up more fragrance reviews in the last couple years than most folks who have been on YouTube for a decade, okay? And not just by a little bit. I've like doubled and tripled and quadrupled them up. So there is a lot of old stuff on the channel for you to go back through if you're interested. If you're a real frag head and you're interested in little niche reviews like Night Flower by Eris Parfums, there's some good stuff on the channel. Okay, next on the list, and there's also things like this, a comparison video of vintage Escada Pour Homme EDT versus the Eau de Parfum, which is up there somewhere in a mini, but this is one of my favorite. This is my favorite Escada fragrance, let's just say. It is cognac with that sort of amber fougere DNA. You know, it's got that heritage, Ungaro Pour l'Homme 1 kind of DNA going, but with this cognac's oriental booziness. Woody oriental, and the cardamom is in the heart. But yeah, go watch my comparison video if you're interested. I much prefer the Eau de Toilette, by the way. Okay, next on the list is a feel oud fragrance called Sunrise and Set. I reviewed it off of a sample. God knows where the sample is, but it reminded me a lot of Ocularia Blossom. I think I liked Ocularia Blossom better, actually, but there was a cardamom note in here, so it's on the list. Okay, next on the list is a fragrance from the house of Fendi, and it is called Fan de Fendi, and it is discontinued, unfortunately. Francois Demachy, Delphine Lebrun, Croix Giac, and Benoit Lepauza were the three perfumers. This has a Guatemala cardamom note in the heart, but a very, like if you're someone who wanted a leather fragrance, but you're not into leathers the way I'm into leathers, like you don't want the Bellamy's and the Antaises and stuff like that, you want like a designer leather, this is what I would recommend. This is an easy to swallow designer leather with spices, you know, Texas cedar. It's got that designer woodiness going, very well-made designer, though. It's sad this is discontinued. They also made a flanker called Assoluto, and Assoluto, you can see I've got the 50 mil and the one I like more, and I've got the 100 mil and the one I like less, but that's how it goes. Assoluto kind of took this DNA and said, we're just going to add oud to it, because of course they are, in 2014. So it keeps the La Reunion pink pepper and Guatemala cardamom, and adds oud and a Papanax and stuff like that. So it's a little bit more resinous and ambery and thick, and you can see it in the juice color where they were kind of going for here. But yes, it's not that it's a bad flanker. Again, it's just, I don't know. It's a lazy flanker. Let's put it that way. Okay, Next on the list, we have a fragrance from the house of Fragrance Du Bois. Actually, all three, next three or four are all from Fragrance Du Bois. We've got Oud Blue Intense, Cardamom in the top, Oud Noir Intense, Cardamom in the top, and Oud Vert Intense, Sri Lankan Cardamom in the top. So there is a Fragrance Du Bois live stream on the channel. It is an old live stream, so the quality may be shite, but go check it out if you want to learn about how I feel about Fragrance fucking Du Bois. I will not be reading any letters, a la our good friend who claimed there was no oud in Fragrance Du Bois. Okay, Francesco Smalto Full Choke. I've got a sample somewhere from the duck from Rich Mitch. That is a Pierre Bourdon creation when he was at Fragrance Resources, and it has a gunpowder note, which you will find also in Himalaya. So you can see he's kind of playing with similar trends. But I liked Full Choke. Like, I would have a bottle of it if money was no issue. But there was also pineapple in Full Choke, which he was also, you can see, playing with trends all the way up to his pupil made Aventus in 2010. But yes, good times. Okay, next on the list we have a cologne version, an original cologne version of, distributed by Jacqueline Cochrane. There's a throwback from the past, by the way. Bowling Green by Jeffrey Bean. This stuff is just amazing for the summer. Lemon, juniper, basil, bergamot, artemisia, pine, lavender, cinnamon, cardamom, jasmine, moss, fir, cedar, amber, patchouli, and sandalwood. It's just so 80s, first of all, but just a beautiful aromatic fougere take. Sometimes you just need a good aromatic fougere. Okay. Next on the list is Gianfranco Ferre 4-Man, or Gianfranco Ferre Homme, as the original bottles were called, Homme, or 4-Man, whatever you prefer. I think it says Gianfranco Ferre Man, Gianfranco Ferre Homme, and then they changed it to Gianfranco Ferre 4-Man, and then they discontinued it altogether because they're fucking stupid. This is the best thing Gianfranco Ferre ever did, but or one of the best. It is tangerine, bergamot, lemon, juniper, lavender, petit grain, cardamom, a fern note, jasmine, iris, moss, fir, leather, cedar, musk, sandalwood, and vetiver. It's so aromatic, but also so spicy and leathery. I love it. The older bottles have this see-through glass here. They call it the tea bottle. The newer bottles have this all blacked out. Since it's discontinued, get whatever the hell you can get. I think it's all good, but if you're a stickler for buying the first version, you want the one with the glass in the middle. Okay, next on the list we have the second, or the other Gianfranco Ferre fragrance. I think is worthy of attention. Oh shit! And the damn atomizer just came off. But this is called, you bastard. It's not called You Bastard, I promise. It is called Gianfranco Ferre Pontaccio 21. Why won't you get on there? I'll screw with you later. You're in big trouble, mister. So Pontaccio 21 is basically a woody, spicy sage. Well, I think there is sage in here, but suede fragrance, okay? So lots of angelica and myrrh and resins and stuff like that with beautiful aromatic spices: cardamom, rosemary, lime, neroli, rose, cypress. But the way the angelica, the myrrh, and the suede all come together in the base with some patchouli, to die for. Absolutely to die for. This is the eau de toilette. Apparently there's a cologne version too, which is different smelling from my understanding. Okay, next on the list we have Giorgio for Men VIP Special Reserve. Hell of a name, but came out in 87. Spicy, woody, aldehydic spices in the top with cardamom, bergamot, mandarin orange, patchouli, carnation, the good old days. And it dries down to this mossy, leathery sort of, slightly vanillic tonka musk. I'll review it one of these days. I really like that. It's not my favorite Giorgio Beverly Hills, but it's up there. Okay, a quick mini, and again, this is thanks to Andrea, but this is Organza Organza Indecence is what this is called by Givenchy. Hell of a name, by the way. Hell of a bottle too. What is this even? I have no clue what this is, but looks like a magic lamp that the front got melted up somehow. But Organza Indecence. It is a spicy oriental with cardamom, bergamot, mandarin orange, nutmeg, Ceylon cinnamon, jacaranda wood, carnation, iris, rose, labdanum, musk, patchouli, cedar, oak moss, and sandalwood. Okay, now if you want to laugh, and I know you all do want to laugh, if you want to see me butcher a fragrance, go watch my review of Giseda's Titanium. Maybe one of the worst fragrances I've ever smelled in my life, ever, ever. Not just now, ever. I think whoever is marketing this, Swiss Fragrances, or whoever the fuck it is, they should just throw in the towel and just go do something else. Just start selling hardwood floors or something. I don't know. Fragrance is not where it's at for you. Okay. But yes, it is bad. It's very, very bad. Very, very, very bad. Very, 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 very bad. That is Titanium by the house of Giseda. Next on the list, we have a fragrance called King's Salute by Grossmith. And I reviewed this on the channel. You can check it out. It was for King Charles's coronation last year in 2023. And I really liked it. It's a beautiful sort of traditionally masculine fruity fougere. It's got some blackcurrant, beautiful blackcurrant with provincial lavender and iris. And one person described it as like the fougere version of Aventus. And I get because it has the blackcurrant and kind of the way it's produced and all that stuff. But yeah, that's maybe stretching it a little bit, but it is a nice fragrance. But you know what? It's maybe my least favorite Grossmith fragrance. Even though it's really nice, the women's versions are even more mind-blowing. And I'm going to review another one on the channel soon. But I have a couple Grossmith reviews up on the channel if you want to see my just pure shock at how amazing they are. Yeah, if money was no issue, I'd own all those. Those Grossmiths are all full bottle worthy. Okay, next on the list is a discontinued Gucci fragrance called Gucci by Gucci Sport Pour Homme. So it's a sport version. Cardamom in the heart with some fig and citruses, of course. But yeah, it's some sample that I've been sitting on forever that I haven't talked about yet. Okay, now, if you're into discontinued fragrances and you like Arabic style discontinued fragrances, this is one I would urge you to try and hunt down. This is Ambre Eternal. There's a review on the channel. You can check it out. I absolutely love this stuff. I love the way that I have to say, Thierry Vasseur claims there's real ambergris in these, and it really smells like it, especially in the top here. You get these leathery touches, ambery touches. The orange blossom adds a little bit of like freshness, like floral freshness, you know, and coriander and cardamom in the top. But it's like ambery, leathery. The ambergris makes it sparkle a little bit. It's just a beautiful creation. It's a little bit sweet, but I really enjoy it. I like it. It's Arabic style Guerlain. Speaking of Guerlains, there is a decant I've been sitting on called Arsène Lupin Dandy from 2010. And that is one of Jean-Paul Guerlain's last works, if you will. One of his last works before he officially stepped aside. And it is Brazilian rosewood, pink pepper, bergamot, violet, frankincense, cardamom, sage, gaiac wood, patchouli, sandalwood, and leather. It's beautiful. I would not mind a bottle of that at all. But yeah, so originally it was called Arsène Lupin Dandy. Then they changed the name to Arsène Lupin. Then they just discontinued the whole thing because why the hell not? But yes, it is very well done. And then, speaking of well done Guerlains, but this is still in production, but I think you have to go to like the Paris store or something to get it. This is Rose Necri du Désert. And I love these old bottles right here. These like shimmering gold. These are amazing. Floral oriental with the most beautiful Persian rose note and patchouli. Big patchouli in here. with oud turmeric, which you don't see very often in designer perfumes, and cardamom in the heart. Okay, next on the list, we have one of my most hated fragrances of all time. Why in God's name I still have this in my collection, I have no clue. I mean, these two, I could just literally just throw them away and just fuck selling them for 20 bucks. Just throw them away. But I don't, because I want to show you guys on the channel and bash them. I have not bashed this yet, but I should. I should do a full review and just bash the fucking shit out of this. It's called Halloween Man X, and I despise this fragrance. This is one of the most disgusting things I've ever smelled in my life. It is, they say there's actual notes in this fragrance, like cardamom, provincial lavender, coffee, whiskey, mineral notes, cinnamon, leather, tonka bean, amber, frankincense. I just get like a ball of disgusting sweetness. Just vomitus maximus for me. Halloween Man X is, ugh. Why I own it, I have no idea. Okay, next on the list, we've got a Halston fragrance, and thanks to some very kind subscribers of the channel, specifically Frank and his son Science Bear, I have Unbound for Men, actually, and I've got a couple other very kind gifts from them. One, a unicorn Halston called 101, which is very expensive and hard to find. So I'll review these one of these days. But Unbound for Men, I wore it to bed once. Actually, not bad. There's a tomato leaf note in here, which I'm always interested, because tomato leaf is one of those ingredient notes that you don't see too often. And there's only a handful of fragrances in my collection that have it. So it's tomato leaf, black currant, palm leaf, sage, birch, white violet, which I've never heard or seen that before, cardamom, coriander, pimento, vetiver, musk, nutmeg, sandalwood, tonka bean, and oak moss. So yeah, kind of excited to discuss this, actually. It is discontinued, as are, I think, every single Halston is. I don't know if the whole house is shut down or what, but yes, Unbound from 2002. And then we've got a Henri Jacques, and I've reviewed a couple Henri Jacques fragrances on the channel. They're all like pure parfum. They're unbelievably expensive. They're like, I don't know, they're very Creed-like, but in the Attar space, okay? Or in the, whatever they call this, pure perfume space. So this one's called Blue Vanille, and it's got a cardamom note in the top with some aromatic notes, spices, geranium, tobacco, vanilla, and white musk. I'll review it one of these days, but there are a handful of reviews on the channel of Henri Jacques if you want to check those out. And then, oh God, we've got, oh man, we've got Eau de Hermes, which I'm not even going to pull out the bottle, but trust me, it's Eau de Hermes from 1951. One of the greatest fragrances of all time. This will definitely get a Vintage Hall of Fame review. It's a spicy animalic fragrance. And again, if you want to study citruses and cardamom, check out Eau de Hermes. It's got an amazing note of clover, which was also used in Aramis, and maybe even inspired Bernard Shaw to use the clover in Aramis. But lavender, cinnamon, geranium, tonka, vanilla, jasmine, birch, sandalwood, tonka bean, cedar, and of course leather, because this was supposed to smell like the inside of like a Birkin bag. So you were supposed to take your Eau de Hermes and spray the inside of your bag whenever that new bag smell went away, and you were supposed to be able to smell like a brand new, like you had a brand new Birkin bag. That was the idea of Eau de Hermes. People loved it so much they forced them to sell it as a perfume. Okay, next on the list we have Rokabar in the old bottle presentation, but the new one's just fine, I'm sure. Hermes does really good reformulations. But yes, this is very spicy and woody, but also slightly ambery in a way. Like there's a benzoin kind of covering of the green notes underneath, you know? So you get the fir, balsams, and the cypress and all that stuff, but it's like coated in this cover of benzoin and vanilla. But I still really enjoy Arokobar. There's definitely something outdoorsy about it, and the cardamom is in the heart. Okay, next on the list, we've got some Histoires de Parfum fragrances. First, 1969. 1969 is a sort of fruity, It's almost like a weird fruity gourmand in a way because it's got peach and multiple fruits in the top with rose, cardamom, clove, white blossoms, and chocolate in the base, like chocolate, patchouli, white musk, and coffee. So chocolate and coffee, it almost makes it a little bit of like a weird fruity gourmand. The fruits, the chocolate, I mean, everything you can eat. The coffee you can drink. So yeah, it's like a weird kind of fruity gourmand, but well done. For what it is, I mean, I think it's well done. I think this house is underrated personally. I've reviewed a few from the house we'll talk about here in a little bit, but well, one of my favorites, which I would love a big bottle of, all I have is this. Oh, but I did have a 10 mil decant before this. This is a 15 miller of 1740, so I've gone through maybe 10, 11 mils. 1740 is probably one of my favorite from the house. It's a spicy, leathery fragrance that almost smells like it could be a Bertrand Duchefort because of the Divana note. Bergamot, patchouli, cardamom, coriander, leather, immortelle, labdanum, birch, cedar, vanilla, and elemi. Very butch, like a butch hardcore. Yeah, hardcore leather, vintage. I love this stuff. I mean, one of the best from the house. One of the best leathers that doesn't get enough love. 1740. And then, oh god, oh, this is gonna be tough. We uh, we've got this little bad boy. This is called Fidelis from the edition rare version. And I'm still waiting to review this. I need to wear this and just do the damn review. But some people compare this to the Moon. The more I've been wearing the Moon, the less I think that comparison is correct. It's the same perfumer, Julian Rasquinet, but the Moon is head and shoulders above, I think, this, in my opinion, Rare Fidelis, but I still enjoy it. Guatemalan coffee, saffron, cardamom, cumin, rose absolute, raspberry, amber, patchouli, and oud. I think it's the way that the oud accord is done here that has been putting me off lately because it's done in a fashion that maybe just doesn't seem as high class as you would expect from a house like this. That's just my 2 cents. Okay, next on the list we have another from the edition rare, and it's called Rare Veni, Veni. It's a spicy oriental with lavender, cinnamon, galbanum, cardamom absolute in the top with saffron, bunch of resins and patchouli and guaiac wood and carnation. Go watch my review of Veni. I enjoyed that one as well. And then we've got Noir Patchouli, which, oh god, which just fell out. But Noir Patchouli is, there you go, Noir Patchouli. And these little 15 mils are great, by the way. Very earthy and spicy patchouli. It's like patchouli in the top, patchouli in the heart, patchouli in the base. Cardamom in the top, floral notes and juniper in the heart, leather and moss and musk and vetiver in the base with some vanilla. But very earthy, great patchouli fragrance, actually. One of the best. One of my favorite patchoulis. So that is Noir Patchouli, dark patchouli. Okay, next on the list we've got a Houbigant fragrance. This one's called Bois Mystique. Cardamom in the top. I'll review it one of these days. Luca Maffei is the perfumer from 2018. Houbigant does good fragrances. It's good stuff. They're just a little overpriced, if you ask me. Okay, Imaginary Authors, A City on Fire. I've got a whole bunch of Imaginary Authors samples. We can get through one of these days. Maybe a live stream is in order. But it's a very dark smoke, burnt match accord, smoke, cardamom, clear wood, labdanum, that kind of thing. Okay, speaking of dark smoke, this is from 1980. You want to get the one with the blue writing on it if possible. It's called Giacomo di Giacomo. This is like a tester is why it looks like it's in a shampoo bottle. But anything with the blue writing is okay by me. It's a very smoky green galbanum. Imagine like plumes of galbanum coming your way. It's like a precursor to Mona di Orio's Queer, which is also on this list. But the cardamom is in the top, and it's beautiful, along with clove and rosewood and cinnamon and oak moss and patchouli. Christian Mathau is the perfumer of Giacomo di Giacomo from 1980. Okay, Next on the list, if you've been kind of keeping notes about reference cardamom fragrances, put this one on the list. This is Riviera Nights by Jacques Bogart. Bergamot, neroli, grapefruit, dried fruits, cardamom, tonka, nutmeg, vetiver, and Virginia cedar. If you're someone who likes La Nuit de l'Homme, which I don't have, so you're not going to find it on this list, but if you like La Nuit de l'Homme, you could check this out. I like Riviera Nights. And I like the House of Jacques Bogart. They make amazing scents on the cheap. I don't know how, but January Scent Project Selpernicue. I think I might have an individual review of that, or it's on the January Scent Project live stream I did. One or the other. But there's this weird butteriness to Selpernicue with cypress, immortelle, and this strange milkiness, like a buttery milkiness. Very spicy and fruity and milky. Cardamom there's not really a triangle, but it's in there. And then, speaking of hated fragrances, speaking of something I just want to throw in the damn trash, this is a vintage bottle of Le Male, which God knows why I own, just for posterity's sake, really, for the collection. Lavender, mint, cardamom, bergamot, tarragon, cinnamon, neroli, caraway, vanilla, tonka bean, amber, sandalwood, and cedarwood. Francis Kirkjohn made teenage boys smell like this. He really should be condemned to hell for doing such an act. But yes, fucking Le Male. I hate the lavender vanilla combo in here. I just despise it. And good luck picking out the cardamom, but they say it's in there. Okay. Next on the list, we have Le Male Essence de Parfum, which I much enjoy over the original Le Male. So Essence de Parfum is kind of like a modernized leather take with osmanthus. Osmanthus has this suede peachiness to it. So imagine like leather, osmanthus, with cardamom in the top, and this note called Georgie wood, which is a Givaudan ingredient because Quinton Biche is the perfumer. And it's supposed to have this kind of woody, but also very intensely clean smell, like clean and wood, with tonka and vanilla in the base. So a Quinton Biche fragrance where you didn't overdose Akigala wood. So I guess you can give them a quick round of applause. But and then we've got Le Male Les Parfums from 2020, which actually is a heck of a lot better than some of the newer stuff they've been releasing for Le Male, even though it's disgustingly sweet. I like the iris and lavender combination, so it could be worse, but one of these days maybe even I'll review that. Le Male Les Parfums from 2020, as usual, very late to the party, but whatever. Juicebox Live and Loud from 2017. Dominique Ropion made that. Cardamom in the top. You can watch my Juicebox live stream if you want more info on that. Cajal has a fragrance called Lamar, which is a sort of fruity, sweet fragrance with lots of pineapples and apples and cardamom in the top. And it sits on a lot of ambrox. And Mark Buxton is the perfumer there. I'll review Lamar one of these days. Maybe a little oriental touch in it as well. Okay, so that's a decant, which I have not discussed on the channel yet. Okay, and then we've got Dominique Ropion and Jean-Louis Suizac. Anytime that combination comes together, your ears should perk up. This is the original Kenzo Jungle, the elephant for women. Very spicy, oriental, done right. Jean-Louis Suizac does not make bad fragrances. And of course, you know, with his experience in creating things like Bel Ami, Fahrenheit, and of course opium, right? So if you think about opium when you're wearing this, it's interesting because it's almost like you can pick out little bits and pieces of opium, little bits and pieces. But imagine like brought forward into the new age with things like mango notes and licorice notes and all these amazing different notes. And of course, there's a brilliant cardamom note here as well. Very spicy, oriental, lots of vanilla, lots of chewy heliotrope, some gardenia, which always gives me a little bit of a jasmine feel, but it's there. Very well done, though. Very, very well done. Anytime, anything from Jean-Louis Suizac, anything. The guy is just one of the all-time greats. And you mix him with Ropion. I mean, what more can you ask for? Okay, one of my favorite patchouli fragrances of all time. This is Kritsia. This is Kritzia Moods Uomo. You get back on there. Kritzia Moods Uomo. It is basically like a giant patchouli with this big fuck you 80s sort of cover. Cardamom in the top, and then just imagine this vintage old school 80s sort of masculine thing. But yeah, if you're a patchouli lover, this is a must sniff. Sorry about the cap not staying on. And then we've got Al-Oud by L'Artisan Parfumeur. This is a Bertrand Duchefort. Lots of cumin and cardamom and dates in the top with oud. This is 2009. This is right when the oud train was taking off. And unfortunately, they just flat out discontinued it. L'Artisan was like, fuck it. We're not even going to mess with it anymore. But I do like Al-Oud. I'll review it one of these days. And then we've got Zonka, which is probably much more known as one of Bertrand Duchefort's greatest releases, and I agree. This uses that peony note, which I talked about in Diamant from 2002, in an amazing fashion in 2006. There's some smoky elements from the papyrus. Imagine like this burnt paper accord with lychee blossom, masala chai, frankincense, vetiver, iris, and leather. I love Zonka. That's Bertrand Duchefort. I mean, at the top of his game, doing stuff like Zonka, Jubilation 25, and some others we're going to discuss here. But from 2001, right before he took the in-house job of Hermès, this is Jean-Claude Elena's L'Eau d'Ambre Extrême, one of the most underrated ambers. Very spicy. There's a lot of mace and nutmeg, cardamom, and pepper sitting on this beautiful amber with some Turkish rose and patchouli. An amazing amber that doesn't get enough talk. We'll do a review one of these days. And then, speaking of Bertrand Duchefort at the top of his game, this is Timbuktu in 2004. Timbuktu is sort of green mango, frankincense. You know, you get that wisps of incense and burning papyrus-like feel. There's a flower in here, which is like an African flower I'm not very familiar with, called Kero Karundi. And again, using strange things. Bertrand Duchefort is just a master at putting things together which don't seem like they should mix and making them mix perfectly. And it sits on a base of vetiver, myrrh, benzoin, and patchouli. Just a crap ton of ISOE super, which of course sort of, I think, influenced Jean-Claude Elena a couple years later with Terre de Hermès. This came out in 2004. Terre came out in 2006. So yes, Bertrand Duchefort at the top of his game, and the cardamom is in the top. And then, speaking of amazing all-time great perfumers, we've got Michel Almarac created this flanker of a Lalique fragrance called Hommage à l'Homme Voyageur from 2014. Cardamom, bergamot, papyrus, patchouli, vetiver, amber, moss, and vanilla. And this is almost like a designer version of Private Label from Javoy from 2000 and a couple years before this, actually. But I prefer Private Label, but Hommage à l'Homme Voyageur is still quite nice. And Michel Almarac doesn't make bad fragrances. So, and then we've got some flanker talk. So we've got Hypnos Homme from Lancôme, which is sadly discontinued. L'Oreal finally discontinued it after all these years. That's cardamom, bergamot, mandarin orange, mint, lavender, amber, musk, and patchouli. That is a Maurice Roussel from 2007. And then we've got this little bad boy, which is called... Oh man, this bending down is going to kill me. This is called Sagamore from 1985 by Lancôme. And this is a spicy, vintage, kind of old school Chypre, you know? It's like the old school Chypres you think about like this, you know, old school. But they released it in 1985. And what's funny is they turned down Pierre Bourdon's Cool Water for this because... who knows why. Actually, his version of Cool Water got turned down by everyone, from Hermès to, to Lancôme. And so this is bergamot, cardamom, lavender, geranium, ginger, jasmine, moss, vetiver, and benzoin. I forget who made this, but it's on the tip of my tongue. I'll probably remember here as soon as we move on. But yes, I remember the person saying, man, I feel like, I released a fragrance that became nothing. They picked mine over Pierre Bourdon, but mine basically became nothing, and then his became cool water for Davidoff later on. But it is still being marketed by L'Oreal. L'Oreal's still making this stuff. It doesn't look like this anymore. The bottle's changed, but I mean that's a hell of a run for a fragrance from 1985. So I guess it wasn't a failure. Okay, next on the list we have a discontinued fragrance from the house of Lanvin called Avant Garde. Probably one of the best Jeremy fragrance recommendations of all time. Avant Garde is black pepper, juniper, pink pepper, bergamot, beeswax, cardamom, lavender, nutmeg, benzoin, tobacco, amber, cedar, Georgie wood, there it is again, and vetiver. Shayamala Mason Dew made this, and some people compare this to La Nuit de l'Homme. I think the beeswax has a little bit of pure, a little bit of Mugler's pure Havane. I think there's a little bit of pure Havane in here meets La Nuit de l'Homme and Avant Garde, but for a designer, it's not bad, except for the bottle sucks. It fucking leaks constantly out of the top. Who knows how or why, but sorry, this bending down is going to kill me. And then we've got, and we're not even close to done, by the way. We've got, well, I guess we are close to done, but we still have a ways to go. This is Louder for Men, which one of the best sort of green fougères of the 80s. If you just want to go drop $70 on a modern bottle of fragrance, and it is still available, you can just go to louder.com and buy it, or whatever Estee Lauder's website is. You can't do much better than Louder for Men. I mean, I think this is a modern bottle. The vintage bottles are all gold on the cap or something, but either way, I love this stuff. There is very little drop off to the vintage here. Cardamom, sage, lemon, coriander, mandarin orange, patchouli, sandalwood, vetiver, oak moss, and amber. It's just stunning. And Lauder's Metropolis is also amazing. Okay, next on the list we have a Le Labo fragrance, and this is called Santal 33. You would think I would hate this stuff, but I actually really like it. I like the just give no fucks pickled Australian sandalwood thing with leather and smoky papyrus, and it's got that that harsh feeling that vintage fragrances have. Even though it's a modern niche with a ton of ambroxan and all that stuff, it I think it has this it has a lot of features that a lot of vintage fragrances have, in that they're heavy, they wear heavy. This wears heavy on me, and I like it for that region. Even though it's extremely scratchy, spicy green, leathery. Cardamom is in here, of course, as well, along with some violet. But yeah, I'll review it one of these days. I have a love-hate relationship with it, because obviously the scratchy sandalwood thing is, but the opposite of scratchy is Les Abstraits Belle Âme, which I reviewed on the channel. It's the only one of the three I don't own. And it's iris, Moroccan orris root, Madagascan ginger, frankincense, Trinidad cacao, cardamom, musk, sandalwood, vanilla, and Venezuelan tonka bean. It has this meditative which I could just go to sleep right now. I'm so fucking tired. But yes, Antoine Lee made Belle Âme. And then a couple more Antoine Lees. We've got Ambre Supreme from Les Indemodables, which has aldehydes, Indian cardamom in the top with that beautiful ambergris in the base, and then Musc de Sables. There's full reviews on both of those. Actually, all three of the last three I've reviewed on the channel. Musc de Sables by Les Indemodables, and that's a beautiful musk. If you're a fan of musk-based fragrances, check that out. I love the orris, bitter almond, Italian green, mandarin orange, and cardamom combination with the musk. It's beautiful. And then we've got Loewe 001 Man, which again, if you're a fan of Dior Homme-like fragrances, this is their take of Dior Homme with this carrot seed. Oh, it's beautiful. Cardamom in the top. Again, this is a very underrated fragrance, by the way. I'm a big fan of 001 Man. I love the ambrette. You know, ambrette can give it a little bit of like a boozy muskiness, like a cognac muskiness. But even though it's not boozy, you know, lovely sandalwood and cedar and vetiver. Very underrated designer, Loewe 001 man. Next on the list, we've got Upper 10 by Luban. And this has this vintage peach thing with cinnamon, cardamom, orange blossom, geranium, bergamot, rose, juniper, saffron, cedar, patchouli, sandalwood, amber, leather, and musk. Thomas Fontaine is the perfumer. So the cardamom is in the heart, along with that vintage peach accord. I'm not a fan of Upper 10, honestly. I think it's a little clunky. It doesn't really work together well on my skin, but that's just my take. So M. Michelaf Jewel for him has a cardamom note in the top. We'll talk about that one of these days. There's a sample floating around somewhere. And then another fragrance I'm not the biggest fan of. This is Fusion Sacre Louis, or now it's called Obscure, which I think this is what this is. And this is a Bertrand Duchaufour, but it's very sweet. There's a lot of caramel and all this other stuff in here. All the other stuff around the sweetness is good. The sweetness takes away from it. There's celery in here, cardamom, all kind of crazy stuff. Okay, next on the list we've got Amber Balsam by the House of Maxim, which these Maxims really kind of surprised me. If you like the way Bortnikoff uses the cardamom, check these out. Go watch my review, by the way. Well, I don't have an individual review, but I've got a live stream on these Maxim perfumes. So Amber Balsam, and the other one he has is called Cafe. Well, this is Amber Balsam. Sorry, this is Amber Balsam. Yeah, this is this sort of heavy oriental, spicy, very spicy. Guatemalan cardamom in the top, but you get a lot of resins in here. Peru balsam, labdanum, Tolu balsam with some Siam oud. I was impressed. I was, let's just say I was prepared to be disappointed, and I ended up being impressed. So go watch my live stream on Maxim perfumes if you're interested in learning more. Cafe Mystique is the other one, which I showed thinking it was Amber Balsam. Yeah, this is the one that has that Indonesian Kopi Luwak coffee note, but it ends up going away very quickly from memory. But yes, I like these. These are good stuff. I'll have to wear them. I haven't had a chance to really wear them properly. And then we've got Mandala by Mas Milano, which I have a sample of. We'll talk about that soon. That's got a cardamom note in the heart. Tango, I reviewed on the channel from Mas Milano. That has a cardamom note in the top, but it dries down to that Cecile Zarokian amber accord thing. I think there's little hints and bits and pieces of Epic Woman in there. Ombre Top Copy from MDCI. That's a Pierre Bourdon. Kind of a spicy, fresh take on an amber, if you will. There's some Darjeeling tea in there, raspberry, pineapple. Again, this is 2003. Pierre Bourdon again playing with pineapple, and cardamom in the top. And then Invasion Barbar, which of course I will review. Probably one of the smoothest lavenders you'll ever come across, with some violet leaf, cardamom, white thyme in there as well. And then we've got La Elegant by MDCI, which I reviewed off of a decant. I was not a fan of La Elegant. It was a big disappointment to me. Very spicy, woody type fragrance, but generic and boring. Did not think it deserved the MDCI stamp. So cardamom is in the top, but go watch my review of La Elegant if you want to learn more. The one I'm more excited to talk to you guys about is La Barbière de Tangier. That's a beautiful barbershop fougere. A little bit of dihydromercenol, but done in a modern style, not like Drakkar Noir. Some pineapple, apple, galbanum, lavender, and cardamom in the top. And then we've got Temple of Horrors by Meleg. I think I talked about this in my Meleg live stream. You'll have to go check that out. That's got a cardamom note in the top. And then one of my favorite designer tobaccos, Michael, by Michael Kors from 2001. This is a beautiful elemi, star anise, cardamom. I would urge you to get a chance to sniff this if you're a big fan of tobacco. It's like tobacco and suede with dried fruits and plums, cardamom, in the top, tarragon, which is one of my secret notes. And then we've got Bohea Boheme by Maison Mona di Oreo. There's a sample floating around somewhere that has a cardamom note in it, as does Mona di Oreo's Queer, which I love this. I've learned to love it. Very leathery and smoky. Reminds me of a niche version of Giacomo di Giacomo. Leather, Apopanax, absinthe, cardamom, castoreum, and cage juniper. It's very industrial leather. And then we have Myrrh Casati from the same house. That's a beautiful Somalian myrrh with Guatemalan cardamom licorice. I'll do a review one of these days. I have a decant somewhere. Naughton & Wilson's Gravitas, which is a beautiful spicy fougere, amber fougere take, lavender, ambergris, and cardamom in the heart. There's a review on the channel if you want to check that out. Some Neela Vermeer's Bombay Bling has a cardamom note, along with a very interesting lychee and mango combo. Bertrand Duchefort did that. I really like Bombay Bling, as I really like Treillis. That's got this interesting cannabis, blackcurrant, LME, cardamom, sandalwood thing going on. And then one of the fragrances that I have come to despise over the years is Ani. When I first got it, I liked it, I thought I liked it because I bought a damn bottle. And then the more I wore it, the more I really didn't like the way that blue ginger vanilla thing all came together. It just doesn't seem to work. It seems very cheap. But I know people love this stuff, but if I ever review this, I'm bashing the shit out of it. So that is Ani. And then we have Olfactive Studios Lumiere Blanche and Panorama. They both have a cardamom note, and I've got a sample floating around. And we've got Black Tourmaline by Olivier Dorbrano. Black Tourmaline, which is a beautiful smoky frankincense with cardamom and pepper in the top, and cumin. All right, we're going to have to go on super mode here because this is almost a 2-hour video. So I'm going to try and get through these pretty quick. So next on the list is Ormond Man, which is a Giza Schoen, cardamom in the top, and Laotian Oud and Canadian Hemlock. Very wearable. Early take on Oud. Oscar de la Renta or Louis. This is an early 80s masculine. It's already shifting towards kind of the fresher side of things, spicy, woody, with some cardamom in the where the hell's the cardamom? Is there even cardamom in here? Was I lied to? Am I losing my mind? Why am I asking you? Okay, we're gonna scratch this one because there is no I don't know why I had this on the list then. How did you make it on the list and not have cardamom? Am I losing my mind? I want to make sure it's not actually there. I don't see it. I don't see a cardamom note. All right, so we're going to scratch this one. Oscar de la Renta pour Louis, you are being scratched. And then we've got Paco Rabanne La Nuit, which has a cardamom note in the top. This is a beautiful fragrance. Even though it's marketed towards women, I really like this spicy chypre. Jean Guichard made this, the father of Aurélien Guichard. Jean was a great perfumer. Aurélien, not so much. Badass name, but not a great perfumer. And then we've layton Leighton by Parfum de Marly. Who doesn't know Leighton with that sweet apple lavender thing? There is a cardamom note in the base, believe it or not. You don't see that too often, but it is. And we've got Pegasus Exclusif by Parfum de Marly. There's a sample floating around. I'll review it one of these days. There is a cardamom and bitter almond note in there. As Sawira by Penhaligon's from 2014. There is a cardamom note in the heart, along with a Divana note, saffron, and myrrh and oud. So I'm actually excited to try that one. And Halfeti Cedar, which is one of the few Penhaligons I have a full bottle of. It's very woody, spicy, a little bit boozy because of the rum. The rum also adds a little bit of sugary sweetness, if you will, but it's offset by some mineral notes and dried fruits and Cardamom's in the top, and it sits on a bed of Atlas cedar and patchouli and labdanum. And sartorial, of course, the best Penhaligons. Cardamom in the top with that metallic, sort of freshly ironed feel, way ahead of its time, way before H24 by Hermes and all that stuff. But Bertrand Duchefort, again, at the top of his game in 2010. That decade from 2000 to 2010, what a run Bertrand Duchefort was on. Philip Plein, No Limits, which is a crazy kind of, take on Lidge meets this weird aquatic oud thing. Alberto Morias built No Limits, but not the biggest fan. Cardamom is in the heart. I'm starting to even lose, my eyes are crossed. Fong Dang's The Calling, which I've got enough juice to still do a review here. This is, I think this is also a Bertrand Duchefort. It is, yeah, Bertrand Duchefort. Cardamom in the top with rum, green mango, cumin, chocolate, tobacco, papyrus, labdanum. Yeah, it's like a spicy, sweet kind of fragrance. Pierre de Valle number 25. It's a Roja take. There's some cardamom in the base. There's a million notes in there, but it's a citrusy, spicy fragrance. Amber Porom by Prada. There's a cardamom note in the top, but this is a beautiful, fresh, powdery. Like, if you're a fan of powdery fragrances, you have to smell this. It's so clean smelling, and I'm going to review this one of these days. Daniela Andrier is the perfumer. Arsalan by Prin, which is one of the ones I've not reviewed. You know Prin, lots of ouds, lots of animalics with some cardamom. And Homa is one I have reviewed. If you want to laugh, go watch my review of Homa. Let's just say that one did not go so well. That was very, very challenging. Weird things in there. Goat's hair, tincture, and costus and all that stuff. Mandrake by Parfums Cortana. There's a Parfums Cortana live stream on the channel. You can go check that out. Rania J. T. Habanero. There's a Rania J. live stream on the channel. Rassasi's Fakat Le Rajal. I've got a decant of that. It's a pretty well-made, cheapy oud, if you will. If you don't want to, if you don't want to spend big money on the night or something like that, you can go for Fakat Le Rajal. That's got a cardamom note in the heart. Havas by Rassasi has a... This is like an Invictus clone, if you will, for those getting... no clue why I have this. But if you're into this kind of thing, there is lots of fruits, and the cardamom's in the heart with melons and apples and pineapple and pears and all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, there's an Aventus clone. Rums, R-U-M-Z, Al Rassasi 9325 Pour Louis. It's basically an Aventus clone. It's not bad, actually. These Rassasis are... Rassasi makes decent fragrances, I think, anyways. And then we've got Sutor Wa by Rassasi, which is their high-end line. I've got a sample floating around. I actually really like that. It's spicy and sweet, cardamom, cinnamon. It does sit on a bed of amber extreme, so there are some amber woods that might put some people off, but I don't mind it. Richard James Seville Row. This is a beautiful tuberose for men. Very floral and spicy. Ginger, green tea, tuberose with suede, and the cardamom's in the heart, along with some lavender. And next on the list we have Roja's A Midsummer Dream, which I reviewed on the channel. You can check it out. That's got cardamom in the base. Roja's note listings, but I really hated A Midsummer Dream. It was one of my least favorite Rojas. It was very, very, musky, let's say, but it just didn't have a lot of detail, This one I really like, though. Enigma or Creation E, if you're in the United States. I've got a comparison video between this and Creation E Parfum Cologne, but I love the way that cola opening starts, and it dries down to that cognac, tobacco, heliotrope, vanilla, ambergris. The cardamom's in the base. Again, Roja loves putting the cardamom in the base. And then we have Fetiche Porom, which is right here. Sadly discontinued, but Roja's take on Bel Ami. figs, cardamom, labdanum, leather. And then we've got Goodman's by Roja, which I reviewed on the channel. It's a proper spicy floral chypre, notes like Mayflower and all these different notes in here. Again, cardamom's in the base. You're getting the trend. Many Roja fragrances feel like they just change a thing or two here or there and re-release it. But they have a hell of a, they made a couple amazing bases. One of which is Parfum de la Nuit number 3. I reviewed it on the channel. You can check it out. That opens up a little bit like Eau de Hermes and then goes in a little separate direction. But go watch my review. And again, cardamom's in the base. You're getting the trend. Reckless Pour Homme, which is a little bit like Roja's take on X. I actually like Clive Christian X's more. But that's got laurels and artemisia, lavender, cistus, May Rose, cardamom, ginger. And then we've got Scandal Pour Homme, which I reviewed on the channel. This is so classy. Imagine taking YSL Pour Homme or Chanel Pour Homme and creating something like this. In this, he Rojas it up, as I've said many a times, with mosses, basil, tarragon. And again, cardamom is in the base. So you're getting the trend here with the Rojas. And we've got, next on the list, we have Sultanate of Oman. Sultanate of Oman is this woody, oriental, an amazing frankincense fragrance. One of my favorite frankincense actually to wear because it's got that Roja kind of outer, that Roja cape, if you will. Very birchy, balmy, oudy, beautiful iris, papyrus, and then cardamom's part of the spice with some beautiful fruits. And then we've got Sweetie Oud, which is a gourmand take on oud. We've got Salvatore Ferragamo Pour Homme, which is a beautiful fig leaf, rosewood, cardamom, vetiver, leather, woody and green, and very sad they discontinued this. And then one they need to discontinue is Salvatore Ferragamo's Uomo. This has a disgusting tiramisu note. Cardamom and black pepper are in the top. And we've got Aqua de Cuba by Santa Maria Novella. I reviewed it on the channel. You can check it out. An amazing, beautiful honey tobacco with spices, including cardamom in the top. And we've got Ebony and Oak by Sense of Wood. There's a sample. I think there might be a Sense of Wood live stream where I discuss that. Borneo 1834 by Serge Luton. One of my favorite patchoulis of all time. And patchouli cacao. I've come to really appreciate that. Borneo 1834, I think, influenced a lot of other things. Rapport by Shulton, which I just got a bottle from the great Amouage as well. But this is beautiful, spicy, woody, galbanum, patchouli, frankincense, cardamom. Reminds me a little bit of a different take on a Koros animalic DNA from the 80s. And then all of the Spirit of Dubai's I discussed. I'm not going to go through each one for time's sake, but let's just say if I reviewed a Spirit of Dubai fragrance, it had a note of cardamom. And then we've got Shirin Chai by Sultan Pasha Attars. I actually put this on right before I started the video, and it is fucking phenomenal. Go watch my review. It's so hard to go back to some of these other fragrances when you have smelled stuff like this. So yeah, Shirin Chai, beautiful rose and honey and black tea with that. The cardamom used here is in the top. And then we've got Incense Rosé by Tower. I reviewed it on the channel. Check it out. I love the wild rose clementine combination in there. Tiffany for Men, which is sort of a Jacques Polge Demachy take on the DNA of something like Pour Monsieur by Chanel, let's say, but this is even more powdery and a little bit stronger. There's a little bit more oomph to Tiffany for Men. Bitter Peach by Tom Ford, Sweet Gourmand. I've got a sample somewhere I'll discuss. I'm going to just really quick move this out of the way. And move this in the way. We're almost done. This is Tom Ford Extreme. which is one of my favorite Pierre Negrin fragrances he created that was not for Amouage. I love this stuff. I've really, really come around to love. It's so deep and thick and rich. It's got cardamom in the top. It's got plum, juicy, realistic plum, with violet, patchouli, and truffle, which Tom Ford was playing with. Leather and rum in the base. One of the Tom Fords I don't really care for is Noir Extreme. It's a little bit too gourmandish for me with that kulfi note, that Indian dessert thing. But it is, people love it for whatever reason, but it's just, you know, yeah, it is what it is. I'd much rather wear something like this. This is Ombre leather from 2018. Jasmine Sambac, cardamom, black leather, white moss, amber. Sonia Constant of Givaudan made that. And then, of course, oud wood, which you can see, use the whole damn bottle, basically. Oud wood is, I mean, if you want like a reference cardamom, this is cardamom and rosewood. Like, you know, the oud wood note in here is, yeah. I mean, I did a video on it. You can check it out. But this is one of the reference cardamom fragrances for me. One of the reasons I love it so much. And then, of course, I just reviewed Vert d'Encens, which is a beautiful green incense fragrance. You can check out my review. It's got heliotrope, cardamom, tree sap, very oily, and boxwood. Lovely, lovely fragrance. One of my favorite, one of the best Tom Fords, I think. Diva by Emmanuel Ungaro, which I reviewed on the channel. Beautiful, lovely, floral, spicy chypre from the past, from the 80s. Van Cleef & Arpels Gem, which reminds me a lot of, you know, fragrances like Rochas Femme, these heavier, oriental, floral oriental fragrances. Oh man, Gem is truly a gem. I know I've talked a lot about it lately, but it deserves it. Go watch my review. If you're into vintage discontinued fragrances, this is a must sniff if possible. Roger Pellegrino made it. It's just amazing. The spices, the fruits, the heaviness of the amber, the oak moss, all that good stuff. Versace has a couple fragrances. Versace Man, which is discontinued. This used to be a cheapie. I think it's one of Versace's better, newer scents, let's say. Obviously, Versace L'Homme from the 80s. I'd love a vintage bottle of that one day. I don't have one. But it is Angelica, black pepper, neroli, saffron, cardamom, amber, cashmere wood, labdanum, and tobacco. And then I think they used a very similar kind of chassis to create Versace Pour Homme Oud Noir. Again, in the realm of oud wood, pepper, bitter orange, neroli, frankincense, cardamom, saffron, oud, patchouli, and leatherwood. And just a couple more. We've got Antidote by Victor and Rolf. This is a very complex fragrance. So much going on. Pierre Wargnier, one of the great perfumers, created this towards the end of his career in 2006. It's discontinued, but it's got cardamom, mint, lavender, cinnamon, nutmeg, orange blossom, violet, freesia, geranium, leather, guaiac wood, sandalwood, white musk, amber, cedar, iris, tonka, vanilla, labdanum, oak moss, patchouli. You get the idea. It just goes on and on and on and on. So many different notes, so many different vibes, so many different feels, so many different, like, goes in this direction and then that. And sometimes it's floral, sometimes it's spicy, sometimes it's leathery, sometimes it's woody, sometimes it just goes all over the place. I'm going to review this one of these days. And finally, we've got YSL Jazz from 1988. There is a review on this, one of my all-time favorites. I mean, just one of the greatest, I think one of the greatest scents from YSL. Sad this is discontinued. I can't believe they discontinued this. Man, this is like the scent of the late 80s for some folks. I love the tobacco in the base too. And then a couple zoologist fragrances have cardamom in it, musk deer, seahorse, and tiger, which I've reviewed tiger on the channel. Seahorse and musk deer are discussed in my live stream. So that is my insane cardamom video. It just goes on and on and on. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment. I'll be shocked if anyone watches all 2 hours. But as always, cheers, guys. Happy to get to 9,000 subs. I hope somebody found some fragrances to sniff out that you've never either heard of or maybe didn't have on the list or whatever it is thanks to the video. And there will be more content to come. So cheers, guys. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.